Angela. Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Kelly Nelson. I'm the Outreach and Communications Manager for the Maryland Able Program, and I want to thank the wonderful team at MSRP for organizing this Savings Symposium every year for the last 7 years now. As a Maryland State employee myself, I find this a really helpful resource. So thank you for doing that, and thanks for having Maryland Able back again this year. And for all of you who have logged on this morning, your time is valuable. So I want to thank you guys for investing some time here with me this morning to learn about ABLE accounts and how they help people with disabilities and their family members. So my plan for today is to provide a very broad overview of the ABLE program here in Maryland, talk about the eligibility criteria, as well as the main regulations that guide these programs, talk on the specific benefits like tax-free savings and how we can use those accounts. We'll even touch upon how to enroll in the account if you're interested, as well as then focusing on some specific features we have here in Maryland Able that I think are really helpful to families. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and we will have time at the end for any questions that you have. So for those of you who may be logging in for your very first ABLE presentation, I'm going to start at the beginning and just share a little bit about what ABLE accounts are. ABLE accounts are a result of federal legislation that was passed way back in 2014 now, right? And it was called the Achieving a Better Life Experience. That's where we get the acronym for ABLE. The ABLE Act was passed. And it was passed because a lot of people for decades who have disabilities that were receiving any kinds of means-tested benefits, things such as SSI and Medicaid and different Medicaid waivers, had a real challenge in that they weren't ever able to save beyond a $2,000 asset limit. And this made it really difficult for saving for their future, but also saving up for things that might be a high expense, right? A cost that they needed. So it was actually creating a cycle of poverty for people with disabilities as they were being forced to spend down their monthly benefits in order to maintain their benefits long term. So because of the ABLE Act, it made it possible for people with disabilities to be able to save up to $100,000 in an ABLE account and still maintain all of their benefits. When the ABLE legislation passed, our regulations were housed in, currently are as well, in the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A, and that's where we're going to talk about all these criteria and all the criteria for having an ABLE account and how it is regulated as well. Okay. So, pardon me, just so that you know, Maryland ABLE is one of 47 ABLE programs nationwide, many of which are open for national enrollment, as is Maryland. Here in Maryland, we launched our program almost 8 years ago. Next month, we're going to celebrate our 8-year anniversary. And we are very happy to say that today we have over 8,000 Maryland ABLE account holders who have been able to save and invest together collectively over the last almost 8 years, $131 million. So this is a big deal for folks who were once only able to have $2,000 or less. And we are operated under the Maryland State Treasurer's Office. All right, so let's take a look at some of the main reasons why people are interested in opening ABLE accounts. And the first is what I've touched on previously, which is it increases that savings limit before those SSI cash benefits are impacted. So when a person receives SSI benefits, Social Security cash benefits, that is, they're only permitted to have a combination of $2,000 in assets in their name. If they should go beyond that limit, what's going to happen is you'll be notified that you're over-resourced, and if you don't spend that money down within the time period that they allocate, then your Social Security, you are disenrolled from it and you'd have to start all over again. It also would immediately cancel the Medicaid piece, which is that health insurance piece and any other waivers that they may have. So this is the way to be able to save and plan without jeopardizing those benefits. The money that's in an ABLE account is going to have no federal or state taxes on the earnings, not while the money is in the ABLE account and not when you withdraw it, as long as the money is being spent on the account beneficiary. And it can be spent for anything that is going to support them in their health, their independence, or their quality of life. So lots of ways to be able to utilize the money, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later. Also here in Maryland, for those who have a Maryland ABLE account and contribute to an account here, we have access to a state income subtraction for the contributions that we make. So if a person is single, they can claim a $2,500 subtraction on their Maryland state taxes. And if they're married, filing joint returns, they can use $5,000 as an income subtraction on their Maryland state taxes. So really wonderful for families who are caring for someone with a disability or raising a child with a disability, as we know that they oftentimes face many additional expenses to support their family member. ABLE accounts are intended to be very easy to set up. We do everything online. People who are interested, they go directly to the website, marylandable.org, and it takes about 15 minutes to set the account up. You link it to an existing bank account, and then you're off and running. Okay, so you can do all your contributions and withdrawals and choose your investment strategy or saving strategy. Everything is done online. So it's intended to be very simple, which is not something that people with disabilities are accustomed to, because oftentimes they're very, very lengthy applications. You wait a really long time to even hear back whether you're getting the benefits or not. And then it's just a long process. Anyone that's ever been through the application for applying for SSI benefits or Medicaid or any of the waivers, you guys know what I'm talking about. So this is a refreshing change to be able to get something done pretty quickly. And again, once you have your ABLE account set up, you have access to your funds 24/7 because it's done all online. We also have a mobile app so people can manage their account from their mobile device as well. Okay. So let's take a quick look at who is eligible to open an ABLE account. Currently, our regulations state two criteria. The first is that the person had to develop their disability and have the onset prior to their 26th birthday. The second part is that they have to have a disability that's going to be meeting the Social Security definition of a disability. So these are going to be things that are going to be present with the person throughout their lifetime and have a significant enough impact in their life that it is impacting their ability to live or work or learn independently, consistently over their lifetime. Okay, so the disabilities themselves are very, very wide choices of disabilities. Just a couple examples would be someone with an intellectual disability, blindness, deafness, autism spectrum disorder, mental health diagnoses. The disabilities are very wide, but they are again going to be something that's going to be present with that person throughout their lifetime. However, now that I've said that the criteria is to have a disability before the age of 26, I'm very happy to say, beginning January 1st of 2026, we are going to have an increase in that age eligibility so that anyone that had an onset of a disability prior to their 46th birthday will now be able to open an ABLE account if they have a qualifying disability. So this is going to reach millions more Americans across the country that have a disability that would qualify. We're seeing this would be very helpful for veterans and people with traumatic brain injury, MS, things that are later onset diagnoses. So we're really excited about expanding that eligibility to a lot of other folks. So when you're looking at eligibility for an ABLE account, if you're currently receiving SSI or SSDI, or your family member is, well, you already know that you're eligible because you know that Social Security has examined your documentation and found you to be eligible. But let's just say you have a child, a young child that has a disability but is not currently receiving Social Security benefits. And that's not uncommon, because when people apply for SSI benefits for a minor, the Social Security Administration is going to really be examining the entire family's income. And when that happens, the household income is usually higher than what that threshold permits. So when you wait until your child is 18, as an adult, Social Security is going to look at their documentation and use just their income, and that usually, and their assets, which usually falls below that $2,000 limit. So if you're in that situation, it's okay. You can still open an ABLE account. They don't have to currently be receiving SSI benefits. You can go ahead and open the ABLE account, self-certifying that your child does have a disability. We also have on our website, under the forms section, something called the disability certification form. So if you wanted to go there, download a copy of that physician's certification form, take it to the physician the next time you go. You don't need a special appointment to do so during the annual physical or the next, sick visit or whatever. Bring that to the physician, and he or she can sign that by checking off the disability code and their signature. And you just want to maintain that for your records in case you're ever asked to produce that. Okay, let's take a look at who owns the ABLE account. This is really important. It's always the person with the disability who is both the owner and the beneficiary on that account. So if a person that has the ABLE account is a minor, they still own it. I've had people that had a child born, say, with Down syndrome. They know that that is going to be present with them throughout their lifetime. They open the account when the child is an infant. The infant is still the owner of the account. However, we realize that infants and minors, they are not going to be able to manage their ABLE account on their own. So what we have in the ABLE regulations is what we call the authorized legal representative, or the ALR. So if you're opening an ABLE account on behalf of your child, you would serve as ALR to help them manage that process. As they get older, if they are able to manage their ABLE account on their own when they're 18 and beyond, that's great. They'll be able to take over managing that account. I would say that probably 80% of our ABLE accounts are managed by an authorized legal representative. The other portion of our account holders are managing their own ABLE accounts, but we do recognize that sometimes, even if a person's able to manage it on their own, they like having that additional support to manage their finances. So if you are going to be opening an ABLE account for a family member who's over the age of 18 and wants your assistance, you can certainly do so. You want to just know that if you meet any of this criteria here, if the person is able to self-appoint you to serve in that capacity, that's great. If a person is unable to give consent for various reasons, you could serve in that capacity if you have a power of attorney, a legal guardianship or conservatorship, if you're a spouse, parent, sibling, or a grandparent, or if you are serving as that person's representative payee for their Social Security benefits. Okay, so that is available to you if you need that. Let's take a look at some things we need to know about contributions. So when you open an ABLE account, it's going to ask you to make an initial contribution to fund that account. It's a minimum of $25. You can choose if you want to do more than that, but it's a minimum of 25. And once that account is open, you can then decide to make monthly contributions if you want, or you can log in every couple of months and make contributions. As long as those contribution amounts are $5, you're able to sign on anytime that you want to do that. The biggest thing I want to point out is with an ABLE account, in our regulations, it says that we have to abide by the standard annual contribution limit. This year, it's $19,000. It has gone up $1,000 each year for the last several years. I cannot promise that it'll be increased to $20,000 come January 1st. But there is some buzz that is going to be happening. Okay, we won't know until a little bit later. But for this year, a person can contribute up to $19,000 per calendar year. January 1 is the reset, so that contribution limit is going to have a reset. and you can contribute $19,000, or if it's $20,000 next year. If you have a family member who has an ABLE account and is working as well, they are eligible to contribute able to work contributions. If they are working and not contributing to an existing retirement account, or their employer is not contributing on their behalf, they can contribute up to $15,060 additional. So that would be $19,000 could come in from any source, family or friends. But the able to work contribution for a person with a disability who's working can be up to $15,060. This amount does increase every year because it's equal to the federal poverty level wage of a one-person household. So for example, if you have someone 20 years old that's working part-time and they are making $8,000, right? They could contribute above and beyond that $19,000 limit up to $8,000. That's their income, right? But let's just say a couple years down the road, they went from part-time to full-time and they're making $17,000 a year. They got a raise, whatever. They would still be capped at that able to work contribution limit, which for this year is $1,560. Okay. Another important number we want to keep in mind is the $100,000 ABLE account balance. This is important for those who are receiving SSI cash benefits because, again, they can only have the $2,000 outside of an ABLE account or outside of a special needs trust, but they can have a balance of up to $100,000 within the ABLE account. If their savings, their balance, anything that's in that, contributions and earnings, if that exceeds $100,000, what would happen is Social Security would push a pause button. They would suspend that monthly cash benefit. However, Medicaid, the health insurance, and any waiver services they're receiving would remain in place. And at any point, that balance should fall below $100,000. Social Security could automatically reactivate those benefits, those monthly cash benefits, because they were never disenrolled. And this is the big difference between trying to save for the future or save for, expenses outside of an ABLE account or outside of a special needs trust. If you have money in a regular checking, savings, or any kind of investment account, if they were to go beyond that $2,000 asset limit, they would immediately lose Medicaid and those waivers, and then they would have a time to spend down those SSI benefits, cash benefits in their account, all their whatever there is in their account below that $2,000. And if it didn't happen within a certain period of time, usually about a year, the person becomes disenrolled from the Social Security. And that is a problem because it's taking anywhere between 9 months to 2 years, I'm hearing, to get approved for benefits. So we really want to make sure that we're keeping a close eye that we don't become over-resourced. So $100,000 is that account balance at which you want to keep an eye on. If you have a family member who's receiving SSDI, the good news about that is that they don't have an asset limit, so they can continue to grow their account balance beyond $100,000 and not jeopardize those SSDI benefits. So if you're not familiar with Social Security benefits, I'm just going to give you the layman's version. But for a person that applies for a disability, a person with a disability who applies for Social Security, if they have not worked and they don't have a work history, they're going to apply for SSI. That's usually what we see children who are born with a disability. They have not worked. When they turn 18, people apply for SSI. If you or I were to go out and become injured and have a qualifying disability, we would be able to apply for SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. That's because we're going to look back on our work history and we would receive benefits based on that. So if you have a family member that's receiving SSDI, you don't have to worry about that $100,000 account balance limit. You also may find that as you retire, and you have a child that's receiving SSI benefits, they may begin to qualify for SSDI benefits because they will be able to get 50% of your retirement benefits. Okay. So just a little bit about Social Security. And then the other thing you want to keep in mind is if you have someone that's, okay with going beyond that $100,000 limit because they're getting SSDI or they're doing really well and they don't want to worry about having to maintain the SSI, they can have up to a $500,000 account balance, after which we would no longer be able to accept contributions to the ABLE account, but the balance could continue to grow because of savings or investments. Okay. Really happy to report that legislation was passed recently that made permanent the provision for ABLE to have 529 rollovers into an ABLE account. This was scheduled to sunset at the end of this year, but part of the big beautiful bill that did pass and had a really great impact for Maryland ABLE was making permanent this provision, which allows people who have opened a 529 college savings plan to be able to roll money into an ABLE account. So let's just say you opened this 529 account when your child was born, and as they're getting older, you're thinking, well, I'm not really sure that college is going to be their pathway. You can roll money into the ABLE account from the 529. It is still subject to that standard annual contribution limit. So if you had, $30,000 in a 529 account, you could roll up to 19,000 this year and then ladle the rest out over the next coming years. And the reason this is so helpful is that it now expands what that money can do. Previously in a 529 account, it's intended for education, college, trade schools, all the things that you can pay for education related. But when you move the money into ABLE, it is now expanded to being able to use it for anything at all that's going to support health, independence, or quality of life. And that would include education, if maybe down the road they did decide that college was their pathway. When you have an ABLE account, you have choices of whether you want to save the money in the ABLE account, in the FDIC insured cash option, which is a very popular option for folks because a lot of times people use ABLE accounts as very transactionary accounts. They're saving for a specific large purchase. So it may take them, a couple of months or, a year or so, and they want to make that purchase. So they like to be able to take it right out of the cash option. They also have a choice of 4 different investment portfolios that are managed by Vanguard specifically for Maryland ABLE. And you have a lot of choices here, something that hopefully is going to meet everyone's comfort level. So for those who want to start investing a little, but they want to keep it really conservative, we have our fixed income, which is a portfolio that is just 100% in bonds. We have a conservative option with 20% in the stock market and 80% in bonds. So again, you're beginning to be willing to have a little more riding that rise and fall of the stock market, but with 80% in bonds, it's still pretty stable. Another really popular option is our moderate, which is a 50-50 split between stocks and bonds. And then our aggressive option, which is 84% in stocks and just 16% in bonds. The great news is you don't have to just pick one. You can have cash and one of the investment options or multiple investment options. It's totally up to the person that's managing the account. And even better is every time you make a contribution to the ABLE account, it's going to give you the option to select where you want to direct that contribution. So maybe sometimes you're putting money in cash, but maybe around the holidays when gifts come in for your family member or graduations or special occasions, some people like to take those larger amounts and put some of that into the investment option. And you have total flexibility to do that. So with an ABLE account, there is an annual maintenance fee of $35. This is prorated, so those who opened their account yesterday are not going to be paying the whole amount because they didn't have the account January through the beginning of October. It is also going to be withdrawn quarterly from the ABLE account at $8.75. Okay. If you select one of the investment portfolios, there is also going to be asset-based fees on those investment options. And to learn exactly what that fee structure is, you can visit our program disclosure book, which again is going to be available at our website at marylandable.org. It'll tell you the composition of those investment portfolios and any asset-based fees that would be associated with them. But there is no fee for the cash option. Okay. Oh, I love sharing this part because people want to know who can contribute to the ABLE account. Is it just for the account holder? No, it is literally for anyone that wants to make a contribution to the ABLE account. So the account owner, family, friends, employers, people that are getting unemployment, if they've been laid off, they can put those funds into their ABLE account. Benefit back payments. Oh my goodness, this is such a wonderful tool for those folks who apply for SSI benefits, maybe for their child when they turn 18, and it takes, a year and a half, 2 years, sometimes longer to get those benefits. They will receive a back payment from the time their application went in. And we can see that these amounts are very large. We're talking, $5, $8, $10,000, $12,000. Sometimes they can be very large back payments. Well, to no fault of your own, this person is already going to be over-resourced, right? And Social Security, I think, gives them 6 or 9 months to spend that money down. But what if you don't need to spend $8,000 within that period of time? ABLE account is a great place to put that money because you can save it for the future or access it tomorrow if you need it. Again, we talked about those rollovers from 529 into ABLE. Small inheritances and small settlements. So for folks who were looking at ABLE as a way to do some estate planning for themselves, we do want to point out that you would be wise to look into a second estate planning tool, which is a special needs trust. Because remember, when you pass away and you want to leave a life insurance policy or larger portions of your estate to your family member with disabilities, you can't leave them more than $2,000 in assets. So you're going to have a place to put that. Most often when we pass, our estate that we want to pass on is going to be larger than that standard annual contribution limit of $19,000 this year. So a special needs trust is a place that you can create a third-party trust, then make the trust the beneficiary for your estate. And that way you're having a way to put those larger amounts away for your family member with disabilities. Okay, but certainly small inheritances and small settlements can go into ABLE. People think this doesn't happen often, but I'm telling you, if I had $1 for every time I got a phone call that said, oh my goodness, Kelly, oh, I need your help right away. I need to get this ABLE account open because great Uncle Louis passed away. I didn't even know it, but he left our daughter, $6,000 in his life insurance policy, and she can't have it because she's getting SSI. So it is a good place to be able to put those small inheritances or small settlements. Okay. When we look at how we access money in the ABLE account, note that ABLE accounts are managed online. We're not going to go look for the Bank of ABLE. There is no brick and mortar building, but rather we're going to log on to the website of our choice. Again, Maryland is one of 47 ABLE programs nationwide. We think we have a fantastic program, and there's definitely benefits with being within your own state. So if you're interested in an ABLE account, you might want to check out our website at marylandable.org. And once you get to the website, you'll see we have a frequently asked questions section, which I think is super helpful. We also have the program disclosure book, which is going to give you all the details about the program. And whenever you're ready, you just click on a button that says open an account. It's going to walk you through a series of questions, and it will take you about 15 minutes to open that account. During that process, it's going to ask you an important question at the beginning. It's going to say, hey, are you opening this ABLE account for yourself or on behalf of someone else? So if you are an ALR, a family member that's opening it for someone else, be sure you choose that one, okay, to choose that path because it's going to give you an opportunity to put your contact information in there and set you up as that account manager. Okay. At another point in the process, it's going to ask you to link your ABLE account with an existing bank account of your choice. This could be a checking account, a savings account, whatever you want. It doesn't have to be with a national bank. It could be with a savings and loan, wherever you're banking is fine. You can link that ABLE account. You can link the ABLE account to that. Oftentimes when we see folks that are opening it for a child, they usually link it with their regular checking account or savings account because it's usually mom and dad that are putting the money into the account and then turning around and using it later to pay for things. But then later, when a person starts receiving SSI cash benefits, you can go ahead and add another linked bank account, which would be that Social Security Rep Payee account, which is a really helpful tool because you want to make sure that the money inside of that Rep Payee account never exceeds $2,000. So whatever money they don't spend within the month of that benefit amount, you can electronically just transfer it over to ABLE where it is now protected as an asset that's not going to count towards your eligibility for benefits. So that's how you're going to link the ABLE account and transfer money in and take withdrawals. We also have a prepaid card option, which I'm going to talk about in just a minute. So let's look at how we can use the money inside of an ABLE account. If you were bored to tears and couldn't sleep and had insomnia, you could go into the Internal Revenue Code, Section 529A, and learn what a qualified disability expense is. And what it would tell you is any service or anything that is going to support the account owner in his or her health, independence, or quality of life. They kept the definition very broad because everybody's needs are very different. They did give us a couple of categories and topic areas. This is not intended to be all inclusive, but rather just to give you guys an idea. Let's look at health, prevention, and wellness. You know, we know that's going to be prescriptions and doctor copays and hospitalizations and all that kind of stuff. But when we look at wellness, we broaden that definition to include things like a gym membership, therapeutic horseback riding, yoga classes. So really think of it in terms of what does my family member need to support their health, mental health, physical health, and you want to think broader like that. Housing. This is a really big one because those who have a special needs trust, which is a great tool to be able to have, again, for that future planning, but you're not permitted to pay rent or mortgage out of a special needs trust. So a lot of folks will fund money from the special needs trust into ABLE on an annual basis to be able to make those rent payments or mortgage payments. Okay. Education, again, this could be college, but it could also be trade school. It could be sewing classes, pottery classes. It doesn't matter. Anything that's going to be enriching your family members' education. Transportation, you know, if you need an adaptive van or adaptive vehicle, you can use the ABLE funds to pay for that vehicle and maintain it as well, tires, oil changes, whatnot. If your family member isn't going to be driving and as an adult, they need to use Lyft or Uber, you can pay for that out of ABLE. It also includes airfare and trains, okay, and buses. Basic living expenses is going to be food, clothing, utilities, assistive technology. You know, it could be a computer or a screen reader, any types of adaptive equipment that you would need for that. But it also will include the monthly cell phone bill and the cell phone itself, okay? You can see these are just general categories and we go all the way down to funeral and burial expenses. So lots of flexibility of how it can be used. We do recommend as a best practice that you just maintain your documentation. This is going to look different for different people. I help to manage my 21-year-old daughter's ABLE account, and I am I'll say a seasoned lady, right? I don't do a lot of scanning and I'm not a big computer person. I'm a binder girl or a paper girl. So I just keep copies of all those receipts for any withdrawals that I've taken. I just put them in a file folder labeled that year for the ABLE account. And in the event I'm ever asked to produce how I was spending the money and how I'm managing the money, I would just hand over file folders for the the years that she's had her able account available, and to show where the money was being spent. Okay, Maryland Able is not going to ask you for receipts. You're not going to have to call us and say, can I get this with this money? Can I buy that? You don't need to do that. Who's ever managing that Able account is responsible for deciding whether something is a qualified disability expense based on the criteria of, does it support this person's health, independence, or quality of life. So in the event that your family member is ever audited in the future, not because they have an ABLE account, but just because they got really lucky and got pulled for a random audit, they would want to know two things. Does this person qualify for an ABLE account? Well, if they're receiving SSI or SSDI, or they've got that disability certification form, you're good to go. The next part is, how's the money being spent? They want to make sure that the money's being spent indeed on the account owner beneficiary. So that's where that documentation would come into play. Okay, my favorite part is to share some of the features we have here at Maryland Able. Just so you know, those 47 ABLE programs nationwide, we all follow the regulations that are housed within the Internal Revenue Code, but each program in the state was able to have a little flexibility in the types of features that they want to have. Some ABLE programs have checking accounts. We have a prepaid card. The options for investments can be wider or more narrow depending upon the program. But as far as some of the really awesome features that we have here that I want to share is an online gifting page that I absolutely cannot say enough about, because it makes it so easy to get the support of family and friends in saving for a specific goal for your family member. Maybe someone's saving to go on a special vacation, or they need to replace their motorized wheelchair. It can be very expensive. Medicaid might pay this amount of the portion, but then there's an additional amount. So any of those big purchases or saving for their dreams, you can send a link to the gift page by texting it, emailing it, or sending it by messenger to any of your family or friends. And they don't have access to the ABLE account. They have access to the link to the gift page, where they could get this text and it would say, hey, would you like to make a contribution to Angela's ABLE account? And I click on yes. I would enter the amount of money I want to put in and where I'm sending it from. When I hit send, it goes directly into that ABLE account, never passing through any outside bank accounts that would impact their eligibility. So I was talking to an account holder one time who was working, and she had a car and was using it to drive to work, and major mechanical issues. It was like, powertrain, or one of those things that make you shrivel when you hear somebody says, oh, you have to replace the catalytic converter, one of those kind of things. And it was going to be $3,000. So she contacted her dad and said, listen, Dad, I don't have the money right now for my repairs. Can you help me? So he sent her or Zelled her, or whatever they do, PayPal'd her the $3,000 to go to her checking account to pay for the repairs. Well, when that happened, she lost her Medicaid. She lost her waiver services. So, had he used the gifting page, the money would have been available in the ABLE account and she would have been able to make the repairs. But instead, she had the money to make the repairs now, but now she also had to worry about getting her benefits reinstated. So really helpful. Just a little bit of statistics here. Out of our over 8,000 Maryland ABLE account holders, 762 of them are actively using their gifting page. And over the last almost 8 years, they have received over $7.2 million in gifts, which is really, really super amazing. We also have a prepaid card option, which is a really convenient way to access funds in your ABLE account. Instead of going online and transferring money, withdrawing money, and sending it back to the linked bank account, you can load funds on a prepaid card, and then you can use that card wherever Visa is accepted. Okay. Community. So this makes it super convenient when you're picking up prescriptions or whatever you need to buy. You just swipe that prepaid card and the money's coming right out of ABLE for those expenses. It's really great as a financial literacy tool if you have a young adult that you'd like to teach a bit about finances, money, savings, budgeting. When I was working with my daughter on this, when she got her card when she was 16, it's money is a very abstract concept, especially since we don't really see money a lot right now. It's everything's on a card. So using this prepaid card and loading a specific amount of money onto her Able prepaid card every month, she knew she had a budget that she needed to stick within. And she had to make a lot of personal choices, right? Like I'm really saving to go to the movies at the end of the month with a friend, but here I am at Target and I see these things I really, really want. And it's her card, her choices to make those decisions. Sometimes she would choose to stick with her plan and go to the movies at the end of the month. Sometimes she didn't. But the point was she was learning about budgeting. How much do I need to save for the end of the month? So really great tool. It is an additional $1.25 a month to order the prepaid card. Once your account is set up, you can order it from your dashboard at any time. So if you're someone that's going to be using your Able funds on a regular basis, it might be worth the $15 a year to have that access, so convenient like that. But if you're mainly using it for investing and saving in the future, you might not find it as helpful. We do offer direct deposit of Social Security funds. So that's great. If you want to direct those SSI benefits or SSDI benefits into the Able account, you can do so. And we offer payroll contributions as well. This is only going to apply to the account owner and the ALR. Okay, but that is available. We have a mobile app, which is really cool because that way you can manage your Able account and do transactions, take withdrawals, whatever you need to do, load your prepaid card, do it all from your mobile device. It's available for iOS and Android devices as well. And we, over the last couple of months, introduced the automatic savings option, which I think is another fantastic literacy tool for helping a person with a disability learning about savings. So ours is called Weather Boosters. And for those who decide to participate, they can sign up to participate and do an automatic contribution as little as $1 for every time the forecast in their zip code is going to predict a 50% or more chance of precipitation. It automatically pulls that amount. So they can start for as little as $1. It's something I did with my daughter because my point is, even when you're saving a little bit at a time, at the end of the year, I can't wait to sit down with her and take a look at how much money was saved, even with just as little as $1. Because, we had a lot of rain this year. So it was pulling money from my checking account into hers. So she's going to be excited about that. She was very happy to hear every time it was raining. And I heard we're getting a lot of snow this winter. So we'll see what happens. But again, a great way to teach people about saving, even if it's starting small and expanding from there. Okay. I want to go back to that Maryland Able tax incentive. So anyone that lives in Maryland is paying Maryland taxes, that who contributes to an Able account in Maryland can have this benefit. You can use up to $2,500 per person per Able account as an income subtraction on your Maryland taxes. If you're filing joint, you can use up to $5,000. So this is a really, really helpful tool to families that are already paying additional expenses to care for family members. Things that we were paying for anyway, braces, summer camps, tutoring, whatever. Parents are paying for it anyway. You may as well make that contribution into the Able account and take that income subtraction on your Maryland state taxes and use those funds to pay for things you were paying for anyway. Okay. Oops. All righty. So this is just a little recap of the different numbers that we were talking about. As I'm getting ready to kind of close out this portion of the presentation, it gives you a chance to kind of look here and see if any of these things, a little recap, prompts any questions for you guys. I know we are save some time for questions. And while you're thinking about that, this is the contact information for us, okay? So if you want to speak with a customer service representative, there's somebody available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. If you want to, have to do things after work, they're available. They're really helpful. if you get in that enrollment process and you're like, I got a little stuck here, give them a call. They can help you. Or let's say you set your Able account up today, and like 6 months later, you're like, I remember she said something about a prepaid card. You can give them a call if you have questions. Also, consider following us on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. And we do try to be very active on our page, so we'll let you know where we are going to be in the community. We provide outreach throughout the state of Maryland. And I want to thank you guys again for taking this time to learn about Able accounts, and just check in with you guys to see if you have any questions.
Thank you, Kelly. You always give a great presentation. I've heard it a few times, and I love your presentation.